Welcome. I'm Gary Parr, Editorial Director, Efficient Plant Magazine, and this time I'm with Gregg LeBlanc from AVEVA because we're at AVEVA World 2022.
That's right.
Yep, been a while.
Yeah, it has been.
Gregg curates the strategic product vision for AVEVA's industrial cloud platform services roadmap, and he's the Senior Vice President of Information Management. You admit to all of that?
I admit to most of that, yes.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll hold you to some of it then. Yeah. So our topic this time is digital twins, culture, collaboration, because there's much more than just the technology. Yeah. Talk about, digital twin technology really getting to the point, I think, where it's usable for a much broader number of people. But talk about its impact top to bottom in a company. I mean, communication, all those things.
Yeah, I mean, it starts with not being a technology problem. One of the things we discovered is the cultural agreement around lines of business that actually understand the information they want to find and having access to the systems underneath it so they can actually make use of that data. So that can cross boundaries. That can be just within the maintenance versus maybe operations group. That could also be the business IT networks versus operations technology. And now we're adding in the engineering technology. So people have very different views of maybe a common set of assets, but they need the data expressed to them in some way that's units of measure. Maybe it's totalizations. You're taking a flow rate and turning it into a production volume so that you can actually run SAP reports of how much inventory you have available to promise, those kind of things. Digital twin can make that work when you have a problem statement that you can focus on, and then make that data democratized, make it accessible to more and more audience within your business. And we're actually talking about that now as a way to make data available securely in our community inside of AVEVA Data Hub, which allows you to share it outside the boundaries of a business, so maybe to a third party, or maybe a process expert that doesn't work on site, maybe they're centralized, or maybe it's asset manufacturer that knows how to maintain their asset. They want to represent that asset in a way that helps enable their analytics and express the results of those analytics back to the customer. So the digital twin can make all those things happen, but it kind of starts as a grassroots with what problem are we solving? How do I map the data that I know exists to the data that can be consumed by other parties? And that's more of a cultural problem. You have to get in meetings, and you have to then get agreement across these things and be able to support maybe even localization. So those are big problems to solve. I think we're at a state where we can talk more comfortably about enabling a digital twin experience across these different disciplines. But there's a lot more work to do.
Yeah. And you touched on something when we look outside the company, supply chain. Sure. There's some real power there that we haven't had in terms of communicating data.
Yeah. So not every. So sometimes it's a problem that crosses a boundary, like where the raw materials are coming from to the distribution of the manufactured finished good. We've even seen companies that don't want the relationship with their customers to end at the point of sale. So they take a fine chemical or a coated piece of paper that's really expensive, and they want to then ask for data from that customer to bring back how they're using it. They can, the obvious thing is inventory, like, oh, you're running low, let's send you something new. But maybe you're using this catalyst inappropriately. It's like its life is not being extended the way you're actually using it. Here we can advise different parameters on how to run your process, or like for heavy equipment, people that make mining trucks, they want to offer a digital service to keep the trucks rolling rather than unplanned downtime, basically. And they can do that through a digital service. So it isn't just manufacturing the asset and then selling or leasing that asset, but maybe actually changing the transmission, the business model to be power transmitted or power generated, or uptime of hours, those kind of things, or horsepower, like horsepower per day or something, where they can provide that as a service. So data can change that relationship, but the digital twin allows you to support that data relationship so that you can actually query across many different varieties of maybe multi-vendor assets, and then get an answer back that you can normalize with math, and then get an efficiency calculation or something that helps you support their uptime objectives.
Now, I like the part that the empowerment at the operations level. I mean, to me that is terrific. But then I look at the C-level suite, and what that provides in terms of communication and ongoing knowledge of what we're doing without having to call a meeting of 15 people.
We have some great stories of customers who actually implemented a way to surface the right amount of data to maybe the plant manager versus the operator versus someone in maybe a corner office. And they were able to eliminate some of their stand-up meetings by putting a big screen on the wall and then illuminating the tables. So they just come in, they look at the production report or the target issues they want to solve that day. It's all consolidated, and it is kind of a digital twin representation in that the operations person knows what they need to do, the maintenance people know what they need to do, and they have the production orders maybe from the business system that say this is our target for this week's operations or something, all in one screen. And that references a lot of different systems and has cybersecurity boundaries. How do you make sure that the right people are seeing the right data? But then when they see the data, they actually know what it means. So it isn't good to send a flow rate to someone who's looking for the amount of pounds or tons or gallons of something that they want, barrels.
Yeah. And then talk about culture, people culture. Is that something that people struggle with, or once they decide to implement a digital twin and digital transformation technology, that they usually have a culture in place that is receptive to that? What has been your experience?
We have a great story from when we were working with DCP Midstream. I think they've given a keynote presentation about them changing to a performance-oriented culture, and that was several different pieces of technology. But then it turned out to be a big change management sort of thing, making everyone understand their role in the success of the company, and then rolling out communication tools that enabled regular communication like instant messaging and that sort of thing, and then maybe how the goals of the company are translating into individual actions. Like they also rolled out KPIs and OKRs about how people work, but then it was also surfacing operations data so they could see that their actions were contributing to these objectives. So you could see they were saving this much money per barrel of oil produced or shipped or something like that, or maybe it was safety hours, those kind of things that help people understand that that's a number that gets updated daily, and my contribution to that number, I know how my work today contributes to that. And so the digital twin can cross many different boundaries, but that comes from that cultural understanding that everything is change management. So it's not just technology. You can roll out a new system, but if nobody wants to adopt it or doesn't feel like their actions in that technology are contributing to the success, then they have to work on the culture of the company to make sure everyone knows the mission, vision, and purpose of the company, but then how it translates into something I can do every day without it feeling like you're being watched.
Right. Now, see, there's a key right there. Big Brother watching versus this is demonstrating a contribution. Yeah.
And so there's always that push-pull of, we want more visibility and transparency, but also somebody's watching me, so how do I know that my actions are contributing? How do they know that the action we took was to prevent a safety issue or something like that? Like those are the kind of things that I think you have to build the belief. You have to have people have a feedback mechanism about it, and then also understand that everyone gets better every day, basically, based on this kind of knowledge capture and building of that infrastructure.
Yeah, and that I think is probably the toughest thing when it comes to culture is knowing that it's not a punitive situation, that it's a positive thing. You're contributing, you're helping. That's tough for a lot of people.
It is. It affects everyone, right? I think, if you think about the function of every organization, it has been built to produce a particular kind of output. And then when you change the output, what the target is, you have to make sure that the machine that you built is able to either shift or maybe change the situation of the individual so they can contribute in the way that they're most capable, but also then take on new tasks, maybe to a centralized operations unit or some other way that you can empower somebody to contribute to that. Because not everyone can do everything, so you need to make sure that they have the right skills, but also the right objective when they can apply their trade to it.
Digital twin technology getting to the point where small and mid-sized operations, it's approachable for them?
I think it is, and some of that comes down to repeatable practices. And I think that this is where the concept that we're introducing with AVEVA Data Hub and communities is secure data sharing to enable a partner ecosystem to start delivering maybe not templates, but a way to characterize their data in a way that can be leveraged at smaller scale operations. So, we love the Pi server, it's great. Pi systems are installed in many, many large corporations, but that may be inaccessible to a water municipality.
Right.
So what we wanted to do was build something that it could use a Pi server, it could use AVEVA Historian, those kind of things that they want, but there could also be a service provider that comes in and instruments the process and the assets, and then also collects the data and then can sell the outcomes. So instead of having someone sit there and maintain a server to enable all these things, they would rely on the third party to deliver almost a finished good in terms of, hey, here's your reservoir levels, and a rainstorm is coming, here's your flood prediction. We can use the data you have that we instrumented for you as a service, and we can say, hey, you're gonna have to dispatch trucks to go clean out these storm drains or something like that. Because if you're a water municipality, you may not have an IT staff.
Right.
And those are places where it was harder to reach, and I think the digital twin, when you can templatize things and make it accessible to more and more, and maybe do it as a service, you lower the IT barriers, the total cost of ownership goes down, but the value goes way up. Yeah. And if we do it right, we're the platform of choice. We don't have to be in every sales call or every like customer interaction. We have a valuable partner network that can actually deliver these at scale because they know the market. They know what this customer needs. They can build the appropriate digital twin representation, the data access layer. And hey, if that customer wants to start using the data themselves, we have the tools for them to do that as well.
Yeah. Well, I think probably, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the biggest hurdles for so many smaller operations is, if I put this in place, how many people am I going to have to hire?
Yeah.
And I don't want to.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a two-edged sword for us because you're at this conference at AVEVA World, and this conference was built by our community. Our community is full of great innovative users that put the data to use, and they've built up subject matter expertise around it, not just administering a server, but solving problems. Every time they use the software, they're thinking about the next problem that they have to solve. We'll never know that. Like we build the software, but we can't say, oh, the next application we should go build is going to work for all of our customers. Yeah. So we've relied on that community, and they've built a great, strong community. And now we need kind of partners to participate in a community like that as well, because they should have that intimate relationship with somebody who doesn't have that support staff to maintain a server in the network and all those things that are important because of cybersecurity and because of patching, all that stuff lends it more to a platform as a service or software as a service. And so we can build a great platform as a service. We build some software as a service stuff as well. Right. But partners should also be able to then build on top of this very intelligent layer of platform. That isn't just the commodity stuff you get from the big hyperscalers. We do something better with the data and helps them build their intellectual property that then they can serve many different customers with a low amount of overhead on the partner's part as well.
You said a magic word earlier, safety.
Yes. Yeah.
Talk about the power of digital twins when it comes to plant safety.
There's a few different aspects of digital twins that I think help that. One is, there are places that are not instrumented today. And they need some sort of reading to be taken by an operator. So you dispatch them out to a place that may be unsafe or just far away. You want to reduce that kind of overhead. You don't need somebody out there with a clipboard or an iPad just writing in values and that sort of thing. A digital twin representation can help align that kind of data that comes in periodically, or maybe through an IoT network with more of the high fidelity data, and put them together so that you get a better picture of all your operations. So there are many people with assets that are, pump jacks way out and hundreds of miles away from some place that aren't really well connected, but they've never been able to manage them in a uniform sort of view. They aren't treated the same way as other assets, but they're critical. Right. You don't want them to go down, and you didn't want them to go down a month ago, and you didn't know it. Right. So there's ways of using people better so that they don't have to go drive out there just to do that. You can pick it up through some carrier pigeon or some other thing that you have to dispatch out there. But safety also means to us like having the data visible, having up to the second visibility into conditions, so that you know when something is hazardous or something, get early warning of something that needs maintenance before something bad happens. And that's where predictive analytics can really come in and upgrade that data into information and help identify problems before they start. So I think there's a big impact in there. It's digital twin based because if you have rules that say when this rotating equipment behaves this way, there's cavitation, there's some other aspect of it that seems like it's impending failure, you can either shut it down early and get maintenance crews out there or whatever. But that's all comes from a template of understanding like this leads to this next action or this selection of actions, and you can catch things before they happen. And that's all kind of based on this templatized way of understanding the data that you've got out there.
Yeah, and ideally no surprises.
You do not want, no, not a good thing. Surprise is not good.
Yeah.
Only for birthdays.
Well, excellent, Greg. Thank you very much. A little insight into digital twins. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.